Hello everyone, so today I'm going to be teaching you how to make a really simple salt dough recipe. So if you just come over here and I'll talk through what you need. So for this particular recipe you need a mixing bowl, it doesn't matter what size, a spoon, like a big mixing one, a little spoon just to scoop the other ingredients out. You'll need a cup or a mug. As long as you use the same one for all the ingredients, it doesn't matter what size this is either. So if you don't have one, you could use like a plastic pot or something. Some plain flour, some salt and some lukewarm water. And I'll talk through other bits you could have later on. So this recipe is really easy. You need 2 cups of flour, 1 cup of salt and 1 cup of warm water. So I'm going to start off with the dry ingredients and then we add the warm water gradually. So I'm just going to, instead of tipping it into the cup, I think I'll use a spoon because otherwise I might get myself into a bit of a pickle. So as you can see, I've spilled a little bit, so probably best that you do it in the garden if it's a nice sunny day, or in the kitchen somewhere there's not carpet. It's not going to cause too much of a problem. Okay, so I'm not going to fill mine all the way to the top. So 1 cup, that goes straight into my bowl, and then we'll repeat the process again with the flour. So I need 2 cups of that. Now my class, actually most of year 6 and some of the year 5s, you will have seen some of my previous salt dough creations when I made the dinosaur fossils, so you could try to recreate some of those yourself if you wanted to, or you could make loads of other different things with your salt dough. Okay, so I did my 2nd cup and then move on to the salt. I think salt might be easier for me to pour. We just have 1 cup of salt. I'm going to fill it to the same level that I filled the plain flour to and pour that in. Okay, so before I do anything else, with my big spoon, I'm just going to mix it so I combine the salt and the flour. So it's all mixed together rather than being in 2 separate components. This is something that you can do with the rest of your family, maybe younger brothers and sisters. It's quite good fun. Okay, so that's fairly combined now. So what I'd recommend you do is you make a little well in the middle, and that basically means making a little hole and pushing some of the ingredients up the edges. And then what I'm going to do, I've got some warm water here. I didn't pour it into my cup yet because I didn't want all the dry ingredients to stick to it. So I'm just going to pour a cup of warm water here from my jug, and then I'm just going to add it a little bit at a time, mixing as I go. Now for those of you who don't mind getting a bit messy, you can go straight in with hands if you want for this bit, but I prefer to mix it all together with a spoon, and then when it starts to form a bit of a dough, that's when I start to mould it with my hands rather than the spoon. Okay, I'll add a little bit more, so make my well again. So adding it a little bit at a time stops it being too lumpy, so you get a smoother dough. So make sure you bring down that dry mix of ingredients from the sides as well to get into the middle. Okay, it's starting to get a bit doughy in some places now, so that's good. Add another bit. Keep repeating the process until all that water's gone and you get a bit of a dough, almost like if you were making bread, similar sort of consistency. If when you've done this it looks a bit dry, you can add a little splash more water, so it's not an exact science. Right. Towards the end it does get a bit more difficult to mix as the ingredients start to gel together. So when it becomes too difficult to mix, that's when you get your hands involved, if you haven't already. Okay, and really try to get to the bottom there, so I've got all of that flour and salt mixed in. Right, I think I've done as much as I can really with a spoon. So this is the messy part. Now, if you don't like mess, you could use some gloves, or if you don't have gloves, if you put your hand inside a Ziploc bag, then you won't get as messy for this part. But as it sticks together, it dries out a bit. Okay, just start to knead it. So I just kind of twist the bowl and kind of squeeze it and turn it so that you're combining all of those ingredients. I can actually feel it starting to get a bit more dry already, which is good. It's working. Now the recipe that I looked up for this recommends that you knead it for about 5 minutes. You don't have to, but I think the longer you knead it for with your hands, the smoother it is. It's a nicer texture. I'll also mention at this point, if you did want to make different coloured salt dough, if you just add a couple of drops of food colouring to the water before you start to add it, that can work. Or you can use some natural ingredients if you've got any turmeric powder, cocoa powder, coffee granules, anything like that. That does work. So although this is made using edible ingredients, I wouldn't recommend eating it because the high salt content will probably make people quite sick. Okay, I think for the purpose of this video I've probably kneaded it enough for now, so I'm going to talk you through the next steps. So what I'm going to do, I've got my workboard here that I'm going to put it out onto. So it doesn't stick too much, I'm just going to sprinkle a little bit of plain flour, like you would if you were rolling out like cookie dough or something. Okay, and then I'm just going to pick it up. Ooh. Started to stick to the bowl a bit, and then just dollop it on the side. Okay, so can you see it's coming to like a lump? It does look a bit like a bread dough. And this is where the fun bit happens. So there's lots of different things you could do. You could use like cookie cutters. So I've got this little gingerbread man cutter. So you could roll it out and make little shapes with your cookie cutters. These are really good. I know it's not near Christmas, but for making Christmas decorations, ornaments to hang on trees. You could do some rainbows to maybe hang in your windows. That'd be quite nice. If you haven't already coloured your dough, like I haven't here, once these have been dried in the oven, you can paint them. So I recommend like an oil-based paint, so like an acrylic paint, rather than like a poster paint. But if you don't have that, like an old nail varnish or something would do. That would work quite well. I don't know, you could even try it. I think pencils might work. It'll probably take a bit longer, but give it a go. Okay, so I don't have a rolling pin to roll mine out, so I've invented a bit of a hack. So I've got here some, I'll show you where it came from, just some greaseproof or baking paper, and I've just cut a strip. So I'm going to pop that over the top of our dough, and then I've got some cling film, which is kind of the same sort of shape and size as rolling pin. So I'm just going to put the baking paper on top first, so that when I'm rolling it, it doesn't stick to the cling film and get into a bit of a mess. Okay, so you just roll backwards and forwards until you get the thickness that you want to mould your shapes. Okay, so this might take a bit of patience to get it even. If you get a bit bored of this, you could ask a family member to help. So I'm just going to leave it at that thickness for now to demonstrate the next bit. So once you've rolled it out, if you've got a rolling pin you don't need this, but I don't, you just peel it off and you can see it's a nice flat area for us to work on. What I think would be quite a nice idea that I'll probably do with my family is do some handprints. So if you just turn the mixing bowl upside down and push, oh, I've got 4 hands with a knife. You can then cut around the outside of the bowl to get a nice round template. peel off the excess dough from the outside, like that. You can save that bit for later. And remove the bowl. You can see I've got a nice circle shape now. The edges are a bit raggedy, so if you just go around with your hands like that and just smooth those out, like that. If you're struggling, you can wet your finger and kind of smooth the water around, and that helps provide quite a smooth texture. So then what I thought would be quite nice to do is if you make a few of these, and each member of your family or household can put your handprint in. Especially mine. Ooh. It's quite therapeutic, feels quite good. And then just move my hand out. And you can see, if you just go in a bit closer, I've got my handprint there. And then what I'd probably do is maybe write my name at the bottom here. So I could use, if you've got lolly sticks or a spoon or the end of a knife or something, I'll probably write my name here, maybe the date, and each member of the household can do that. So it's quite nice. Once you've done these, you can pop them in the oven. It depends on the thickness as to how long you need to bake these for. But if every now and again you get an adult to give it a little tap, when it starts to sound a bit hollow, that's when it's ready. So I'll put up more specific thicknesses to oven timings, which might help you. But what then I'll probably do is once these are baked, we can all paint ours and then maybe put them in the garden. Or they could be like plant pot holders. But by all means, just be creative with it. If you want to make characters for a story, if you wanted to make little ornaments or decorations for family and friends, it's just about having fun really. So enjoy your creations, and I'm looking forward to seeing some pictures of them.